You think you'll hit the target with that frame? The drill instructor laughed out loud as the petite girl stepped forward. The entire group of recruits burst into laughter. Some pretended to fall backward, clapping mockingly. She said nothing, just raised her hand to adjust her stance. Her shirt lifted slightly, revealing a black snake tattoo coiled around a bullet. A colonel standing behind suddenly stopped breathing, stepped back, and whispered, "That's a black viper mark." Her name was Alina Beck, 28 years old, European, long hair tied neatly, petite frame, fair skin, calm eyes. She was the newest recruit in the sniper training course at Northwest Base. From day one, she spoke little, always arrived early, cleaned rifles for the entire group without anyone asking. The team called her Little Miss Shot, or the Extra. During the first exercise, Alina didn't shoot, only asked to be an observer to better understand wind direction and reflexes. A drill instructor said bluntly, "If you're afraid to pull the trigger, why did you even sign up?" She only bowed her head, saying softly, "I've shot before, but I don't want to repeat it if I'm not ready." The others laughed loudly. "Shot what? Plastic bottles at the supermarket?" But something about her stillness made the laughter feel hollow. The way she handled the rifle, the precise way she cleaned each component, the methodical checking of sight alignment. These weren't the movements of someone who'd only held toy guns. When she observed, her eyes tracked targets with mathematical precision. She calculated wind speed by watching grass movement. She noted temperature changes affecting bullet trajectory. "Why aren't you shooting?" asked Sergeant Mills, the head instructor. "Because," she said quietly, "I need to remember why I stopped." The other recruits exchanged glances. There was something in her voice, not fear, but something deeper, something that made the training ground feel suddenly colder. She spent hours after training, sitting alone, staring at the targets downrange. Her fingers would trace the snake tattoo absent-mindedly, as if remembering something she wished she could forget. The recruit's mockery grew crueler. Maybe she's waiting for the targets to surrender. Or maybe she thinks this is meditation class. But Alina never responded. She just continued her routine, arriving first, leaving last, maintaining everyone's equipment with obsessive care. One evening, Sergeant Mills found her cleaning rifles in the dark. "Beck, what are you doing?" "Making sure they're ready," she whispered. "Ready for what?" She looked up and for a moment her eyes held something ancient. For when someone needs them to work perfectly. CTA Comment Act 1. Have you ever seen someone skilled being underestimated? Type truly unfair. During a live ammunition training session, they forced Alina to go first, even though she hadn't fired a single shot yet. The instructor shouted, "One bullet only! Miss it, and you're out!" She said nothing, just gently wiped the rifle barrel with her hand. When adjusting her stance, her shirt lifted slightly. A drill instructor suddenly noticed the black tattoo, a snake wrapped around a bullet, with the snake's head carved with BV-12. That instructor was about to scold, "Getting tattoos to look cool?" But a colonel observing from afar, Colonel Stein, suddenly approached, his eyes strange. He bent down to look closely, then stepped back half a step, whispered to the instructor, "Stop!" She was in Black Viper. The instructors were horrified. One whispered, "But Black Viper was disbanded after the Red Line operation." No one survived. She survived. The training ground fell silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Colonel Stein's face had gone pale. He'd been a young lieutenant during the Red Line campaign, the classified operation that officially never happened. He'd read the after-action reports, seen the casualty lists marked KIA, body not recovered. Black Viper wasn't just any unit. They were the ghosts who operated in places where regular forces couldn't go. Urban warfare specialists. Each member was worth a platoon. "How many were in your unit?" Stein asked quietly. 12, Alina replied, her voice barely audible. "And how many came back?" She looked at him with those calm eyes. "You're looking at her." The other recruits had stopped laughing entirely. They didn't understand the significance, but they could feel the weight of it. The way Colonel Stein's hands trembled slightly. the way other instructors had unconsciously stepped back. "The BV-12 on your tattoo," Stein continued. "That's your unit number?" "No," she said simply. "That's how many I couldn't save." The silence stretched unbearably. In the distance, a flag snapped in the wind. Sergeant Mills, trying to regain control, cleared his throat. "Beck, you still need to take your shot." Alina nodded. She approached the firing line with the same measured steps she'd used for weeks. But now, everyone watched differently. She positioned herself, and for the first time, her movements looked different. Not the careful, hesitant adjustments of a beginner, but the fluid, automatic motions of someone who'd done this thousands of times under pressure. "Ma'am," called out one of the recruits who'd been mocking her, "what was Black Viper like?" She paused, rifle halfway to her shoulder. "Quiet," she said. "We were very, very quiet." CTA Comment Act 2. If you've ever misjudged someone, type "I was wrong." Colonel Stein ordered the training class to halt. Who gave the order for her to shoot first? The entire class remained silent. Stein spoke slowly. "She doesn't need training. She once saved me at Hill 9 with a shot from nearly 900 meters. I never saw her face, only knew the tattoo." Alina stepped forward. She looked at him calmly. "I didn't save you. I just did what was necessary to get the whole team home." Stein raised his hand in a strict salute. All the recruits and instructors stood speechless, but Alina wasn't finished. The memories were flooding back now, memories she'd spent 3 years trying to suppress. "Hill 9 was supposed to be a simple extraction," she said, her voice carrying across the silent training ground. "Intelligence said 1 hostile sniper. We found 17. Colonel Stein's face went ashen. He remembered that day differently. Remembered being pinned down, his radio operator dead, ammunition running low. "You were trapped in that building for 6 hours, Alina continued. 4th floor, northeast corner. You had a head wound, kept trying to call for backup on a dead radio." "How could you possibly know that?" Stein whispered. "Because I was in the clock tower, 873 meters away. I watched you through my scope for 6 hours. Watched you bandage your head wound with your sleeve. Watched you check your ammunition count 17 times. The training ground was so quiet you could hear heartbeats. I took out 11 hostiles before you even knew I was there. The 12th one, he had you in his sights when you tried to move to the window. That's when I took the shot, you remember." Stein's hands were shaking now. "But our intelligence said..." "Your intelligence was wrong. It wasn't 1 sniper. It was a coordinated ambush. They knew you were coming." She turned to face the recruits who'd been mocking her for weeks. "You want to know what Black Viper was like? We were the unit they sent when everyone else was already dead. We were the ones who went in after the official missions failed." One of the recruits, a young man named Patterson who'd been particularly cruel in his jokes, spoke up. "But why didn't you tell us? Why let us think—" "Because," Alina interrupted, "the moment you start believing your own legend, you're already dead." She walked to the firing line. For the first time in 3 years, she raised a rifle with purpose. "Colonel Stein, you said I saved you with 1 shot. That's not entirely accurate." The rifle cracked once. Downrange, the target split perfectly in half. "I saved you with shot number 473 of that day. The first 472 were practice." She fired again. The second target, positioned behind the first, also split. In Black Viper, we had a saying, "The best shot is the one no one remembers because everyone lived." Oh, a third shot. A third target, nearly invisible in the distance, fell. "But sometimes," she said, lowering the rifle, "sometimes people remember anyway." CTA Comment Act 3. If you've ever been saved by someone you never got to thank right, I owe a debt. Alina didn't continue the training course. She left the base the next morning. On the shooting table was an M24 rifle, clean to a mirror shine, and a folded black cloth. A small note read, "No further training needed. Just remember why we pick up rifles in the first place." In the shooting range, a group of students placed a small photo frame. Black Viper. They never shouted, but when they fired, no one forgot. But before she left, Alina did something unexpected. She asked to address the recruits one final time. They gathered in the barracks, these young men and women who'd spent weeks mocking her, now sitting in complete silence. "You think this is about shooting," she began. "It's not. It's about the weight of responsibility. Every bullet carries someone's son, someone's daughter, someone's future." She looked at each face in turn. "When I was your age, I thought being a sniper meant being special. Thought it meant being the hero of the story. But heroes don't hide in shadows for 16 hours waiting for one shot. Heroes don't carry the faces of people they couldn't save." Patterson, the recruit who'd been cruelest, raised his hand. "Ma'am, how do we become like you?" Alina smiled for the first time since arriving at the base, but it wasn't a happy smile. "You don't," she said simply. "You become better. You become the version of me that saves everyone, the version that comes home with all 12 teammates." She stood to leave, then paused. "And you remember that the person sitting next to you, the one you think doesn't belong here, might be the one who saves your life someday. Treat them accordingly." After she left, the recruits found that she'd left something else behind: detailed notes on each of their shooting techniques, personalized advice for improvement, and a training schedule that would push them beyond anything they'd imagined. At the bottom of each note was the same message: "You're better than you think. Prove it." Sergeant Mills kept those notes. Years later, when recruits asked about the legendary Black Viper who'd briefly trained at their base, he'd show them the notes and say, "She didn't come here to learn. She came here to teach. We were just too stupid to realize it." CTA Comment Act 4. Type, "I will live kindly." If you believe the best people never brag about who they are. There are people who don't need to shoot to prove anything, because they've already shot in places no one dares to remember. Alina was a Black Viper, a unit that was never officially recognized. But every tattoo is living proof. Never laugh at the quiet ones. Never laugh when someone cleans your rifle for you. Maybe the person you're mocking is the one who'll save your life on the hardest day. Live kindly and never look down on people just because they don't show off their titles. The real warriors are the ones who carry their battles silently, who clean weapons they hope they'll never need to use again, who remember the weight of every shot they've taken. They don't need applause. They don't need recognition. They just need to know that when the moment comes, they'll be ready. And sometimes, just sometimes, they need to know that the people they're protecting are worth protecting. Remember, the loudest person in the room is rarely the most dangerous. The most dangerous person is usually the one sitting quietly in the corner, hoping they never have to show you why they're so quiet.